$45 million. Just sit with that for a second. Not a lifetime deal. Not a career achievement bonus. 3 years. One teenager. $45 million. Nike, the most powerful name in athletic apparel, the brand that built its empire on the shoulders of the greatest athletes who ever lived, has just made one of the boldest, most jaw-dropping moves in the history of sports sponsorship. They have reportedly signed 19-year-old Filipino tennis sensation Alex to a 3-year contract worth $45 million, and the moment that news broke, it did not just make headlines. It detonated like a grenade inside every boardroom, every locker room, and every corner of the tennis world. But here's the thing. If you think this story is simply about a young girl getting a massive payday, you are missing everything that is actually happening beneath the surface. Because this deal is not just about Alex. It is about fear. It is about revenge. It is about a betrayal so cold and so calculated that it would make your jaw hit the floor. And right at the center of all of it stands one of the greatest players alive, Aryna Sabalenka, the reigning world #1, watching her own sponsor walk away from her in slow motion and hand everything she deserved to someone else. To truly understand why Nike did this, you have to go back and understand the wound that never healed. A few years ago, Nike had Coco Gauff in their hands. She was young, she was electric, she was everything a brand dreams about when they imagine the future face of their sport. And Nike, somehow, impossibly, let her slip away. They hesitated. They calculated when they should have just acted. And while they were sitting in conference rooms running projections, New Balance walked in with an open checkbook and walked out with Coco Gauff. At the time, some people laughed. New Balance? Against Nike? But nobody is laughing anymore. Because Coco Gauff went on to win the US Open. She became one of the most recognizable, most marketable female athletes on the entire planet. She is on billboards, on magazine covers, in Super Bowl conversations, and every single one of those moments has New Balance written all over it. For Nike, it was not just a loss. It was a humiliation they replay in their minds constantly. And they made a promise to themselves, quietly but firmly, that they would never let that happen again. Then they found Alex. Nike's scouts had been watching her long before most of the world even knew her name. And what they saw was not just a talented tennis player grinding through the rankings. They saw something rarer. They saw a phenomenon. When Alex plays, the Philippines essentially stops. People crowd around phones, around televisions, around any screen they can find just to watch her hit a ball. The energy surrounding her is not just enthusiasm. It is something closer to worship. And Nike, with their obsession over cultural moments and market penetration, immediately understood what they were looking at. They were not just looking at a tennis player. They were looking at a gateway into Southeast Asia, a region with hundreds of millions of young, brand-hungry consumers who had never had someone like Alex to rally behind. And then the nightmare scenario started taking shape. Adidas was calling. Puma was circling. And worst of all, New Balance, the same brand that embarrassed them with Coco Gauff, was reportedly in serious conversations with Alex's team. That was all Nike needed to hear. They did not negotiate slowly. They did not try to test the waters with a modest offer. They opened the vault. $45 million, performance bonuses, royalty escalators, and a promise to make her the undisputed face of Nike across all of Southeast Asia. Custom campaigns. Billboards from Manila to Tokyo. The kind of treatment that is usually reserved for LeBron James or Cristiano Ronaldo. They were not signing a tennis player. They were buying an empire, and they were buying it fast before anyone else could get there first. Now here is where the story turns dark, because while Nike was rolling out the red carpet for Alex, they were simultaneously slamming the door on someone who had spent years believing she had earned their loyalty. Aryna Sabalenka is the best player in the world right now. That is not an opinion. That is a fact backed by rankings, Grand Slam titles, and years of performances that have kept millions of fans glued to their televisions. She has bled for the sport. She has built herself into a champion through sheer relentless will. And before the season, she came to Nike with a request that, given everything she had achieved, was not unreasonable. She wanted a custom outfit. In professional tennis, a signature look is not just about fashion. It is a statement. It tells the world that the brand sees you as a marquee name, not just a sponsored athlete. It says you matter enough for us to design something just for you. Sabalenka felt she had earned that. And Nike looked at the world number one, the reigning Grand Slam champion, and told her no. Let that sink in. They told the best player in the world that she was not worth a custom dress, and then turned around and handed a 19-year-old $45 million. The contrast is not just unfair. It is staggering. But Nike's decision did not come out of nowhere, and this is where the story gets complicated, because the relationship between Sabalenka and Nike had been quietly deteriorating for a long time before any of this became public. It started with moments that, individually, might seem small, but stacked on top of each other, they built a picture that Nike's marketing team could not ignore. There was the Australian Open loss to Madison Keys, followed by the racket-smashing moment that cameras captured in brutal detail. Fans understood the emotion. They loved her for the rawness of it. But corporate sponsors do not think like fans. They think about logos and optics and how their brand looks when it is attached to a moment of visible rage. And that image, Sabalenka driving her racket into the ground in frustration, was not the image Nike wanted next to the swoosh. Then came the French Open press conference. After Coco Gauff won Roland Garros, Sabalenka made comments that were widely read as dismissive, like she could not fully bring herself to celebrate someone else's greatness. The tennis world reacted immediately and harshly. The criticism was loud and sustained. And Nike, the same company that should have stood beside their athlete, went completely silent. No statement, no support, just distance. They watched the backlash roll in and made their calculation. She was becoming a liability. There were internal warnings sent her way, quiet conversations about image and brand alignment. And then the WTA finals, where cameras kept finding her visibly frustrated, complaining between points, radiating a kind of negative energy that clashed spectacularly with the motivational, aspirational identity Nike has spent billions of dollars building. Just do it is a powerful slogan. It does not pair well with an athlete who looks like she would rather be anywhere else on the court. So Nike did what corporations do when sentiment turns. They started looking for the exit, and they found it the moment Alex gave them a reason to run towards something new. Here is what makes this entire situation feel almost cruel. Sabalenka has reportedly been trying to hold things together behind the scenes. There are whispers that she reached out directly, that her team was sending messages trying to salvage the partnership, trying to remind Nike of everything she had given them. But the conversations were going nowhere, because Nike had already made their decision. They had already chosen their future, and their future was 20 years younger and came with a built-in fanbase of millions and zero controversy attached to her name. This is the part of professional sports that nobody puts on the highlight reel. The moment when you realize that your achievements, as extraordinary as they are, only buy you so much loyalty. And once a brand decides you are more trouble than you are worth, no number of trophies changes that math. Sabalenka is now heading toward the open market. And yes, there will be brands interested. She is the world number one. She is elite. She is compelling. But losing Nike is not just about money. It is about reach, about prestige, about the global machine that only a handful of brands in the world can offer an athlete. Walking away from that, or being pushed away from it, leaves a mark. And you can be certain it is going to leave a mark on how Sabalenka plays this year, because she is going to walk onto every court with something to prove that goes way beyond winning a match. Now think about what Alex is walking into. She is 19 years old. She is talented and exciting and deserves every opportunity coming her way. But $45 million does not come without weight. It comes with expectations that would crush most grown adults, let alone a teenager still finding her footing on the tour. Every time she steps onto a court now, she is not just a player competing in a match. She is a marketing asset worth nearly $500 million Philippine pesos every few months. She is the chosen future of the biggest sports brand on earth. She is carrying the hope of an entire nation and the financial calculations of a global corporation. That is a lot to carry when you are still 19. Nike is betting that she can handle it. They are betting that the girl they watch tear through matches with that kind of fearless energy will not buckle under the pressure of becoming the face of their entire Asian expansion. It is a massive bet. And history tells us that these kinds of bets do not always pay off the way brands hope. But Nike clearly believes the risk is worth it. They believe Alex is that rare combination of talent, personality, and cultural timing that only comes along once in a generation. And after watching New Balance prove that a single bold signing can reshape an entire brand's identity, Nike is done playing it safe. What we are witnessing right now is bigger than tennis. It is a full-scale corporate power shift playing out in real time, and the human cost of it is Aryna Sabalenka, a champion who deserved better than to find out her worth by watching someone else get everything she asked for. That is the part of this story that should sit uncomfortably with all of us, because sport is supposed to reward greatness. And sometimes, the business of sport reminds you that greatness has a shelf life, and the moment a brand finds a shinier future, yesterday's champion becomes yesterday's news. The drama is nowhere near finished. Sabalenka will respond, probably loudly, probably on the court, and probably in a way that makes Nike wonder, at least for a moment, whether they made the right call. And Alex, if she lives up to even half of what Nike believes she can become, is going to be one of the most talked about athletes on the planet for the next decade. One story ending, one story beginning, and $45 million sitting right at the crossroads between them.